a review of game week 38 of the Premier League season. So, the Premier League season is officially over. The 24-25 season. We have reached the end of the season, and well, I just wanted to take this chance as well to say thank you very much to everyone who has supported and watched and liked, commented any of my videos covering the 24-25 season. I really do appreciate it, and yeah, we are here for the final game of the season review. I'm going to talk through the final day results, but I'm also going to take this chance to sort of just speak on each team's season as a whole. So for each team, I'm going to go through and talk about their season as a whole and give my thoughts on was it a success or not really now the season is over. But yeah, we've got a lot to discuss, and I should also state that make sure to stick around, make sure to do subscribe and help us on our road to 4K, because I've got plenty of videos coming out in the off season. Just because the Premier League is over does not mean the videos will stop, so stay tuned for those. But anyways, let's get into it. So we'll start here with Bournemouth 2, Leicester City 0. A brace from Anton Semenyo in this game. Now for games like this where they didn't really matter, I'm not really going to talk about the actual game. I'm just going to talk about their seasons as a whole, but Semenyo managed to bag a brace in this game, which was nice for him, and he has had a really good season. And Bournemouth in general have had a really good season, haven't they? It's been a very successful season, one of their best in the Premier League. They ended up finishing in the top half of the Premier League, which is very good. They finished in 9th spot. They had, I think it was maybe a tad disappointing that it could have actually been a lot more. They were quite close to the European spots, and maybe if they converted all of these draws, 11 draws into some wins, they might have got it. But at the end of the day, it's still been a fantastic season for Bournemouth. Some of the players as well have really taken a step up. I mentioned Semenyo, absolutely incredible season. Cliver has done really well. Obviously Dean Howson, Milos Kerkez, I mean a bunch of these. Evan Nilsson's had a solid first season. And Andoni Iraola has done really good things with Bournemouth. Yeah, they look like they are going in the right direction. I will say maybe one thing about Bournemouth is maybe this could sort of be the end of this crop, because unfortunately a team like Bournemouth, they do so well. A lot of bigger clubs are going to be interested in their players, and of course we've already seen Dean Howson's left. Kerkez is probably going to leave. There'll be interest in Semenyo, maybe others, and maybe even Iraola could leave in the summer. If all of that does happen, that will be disappointed. However, if they stay, Bournemouth could really build upon this season, because 9th place in the Premier League is a really good season for a club like Bournemouth, so well done to them. It's been a successful season for sure. They ended it on a high note. Leicester City though, oh boy, I mean it's really just the complete reverse. What a disastrous campaign it's been for them. Comfortably relegated in 19th. Oh, they leapfrog Ipswich into 18th spot, but it doesn't really matter. They were relegated with so many games to go. To be fair, they actually ended the season on some decent form, but it was way too late. Now they did come into this season, I think a lot of people did expect them to go down. They came into this season, in my opinion, really underprepared. They lost their manager, Enzo Enzo Maresca, they lost one of their best players, Dewsbury Hall, and they didn't really replace him. They didn't really replace Maresca well enough. Steve Cooper was gone fairly soon. Van Nistelrooy's come in, has been really poor. And yeah, most of the Leicester City players have really been poor this season. Not a lot of them have shown that they are Premier League level, and I think it just shows that how bad the squad and a lot of the players are. That Jamie Vardy, aged what, like 38, 39, 38, was still their top goal scorer this season, which just really can't be happening. So a disastrous season for Leicester, who are going back to the Championship. Let's see how they do, if they can bounce back into the Premier League again. But I don't know, I think they need a bit of a reset. I think they need a bit of a clear out, need to gut the squad and really need to change a whole lot of things, because this season has been awful. Right, next up we have Fulham 0, Manchester City 2, goals from Ilkay Gundogan and Erling Haaland. So this game did have something a little bit riding on it. Manchester City had to win the game in order to secure a Champions League spot for next season, and they did their job, winning 2-0 in the end, finishing in third spot. Now, to be fair, they were kind of lucky in this game. Fulham really were unlucky to lose this game. Fulham caused them a lot of problems, and actually I remember the reverse fixture. Fulham were unlucky to lose that game as well. I don't really know how City have done the double over them this season, but yeah, if we talk about Manchester City's season as a whole, I should also say a crazy goal by Ilkay Gundogan, who balled out in this game. He hasn't had the best of seasons, but a clutch game for him. That could maybe be his last game in a City shirt, but it was definitely Kevin De Bruyne's last game in a Manchester City shirt, so that was a little bit sad. Of course, a Premier League legend there. But yeah, if we talk about Manchester City's season as a whole, of course, for their standards, it's really not been good enough, finishing third in the table and absolutely miles off. They finished 13 points in the end off the league leaders. And as I said, for their standards, that's not a good season. But actually, in hindsight, I mean, if you had just said, a third place finish and also get to an FA Cup final, that's not a bad season for most clubs. But such as the levels we expect of them and Pep Guardiola, that this is not a good season. They ended trophyless, but I will give them credit for sort of bouncing back, because at one point it really did look like it was going to spiral out of control and was going to, not even get Champions League football, but they managed to get it in the end. And I'll be hoping next season they'll be competing for the titles again. But I think this season maybe showed that Manchester City, maybe their recruitment, or stuff like that, they've been a little bit complacent. So yeah, I'm expecting big changes in the summer, and I think it's definitely needed, because it was, as I said, for their standards, a really bad season for Manchester City. As for Fulham, a really good year, really good campaign. Similar to Bournemouth, there was hopes of maybe a European charge, but they fell away in the end and eventually finished 11th, just outside of the top half. But that doesn't take away from how good a campaign it's been for Fulham. They have been really good this season under Marco Silva, taking them real strides forwards. One of their best seasons in the Premier League for a while. A lot of players I've been really impressed with. Alex Iwobi has been fantastic. Anthony Robinson, Calvin Bassey at the back, Sasa Lukic, Raul Jimenez even finishing on 12 goals is a very good return. So I think Fulham have had a really good season. Yet again, Marco Silva has done fantastic things for them, and they should be very happy with their finish in 11th spot. Next up we have Ipswich 1, West Ham 3, goals from Nathan Broadhead, James Ward-Prowse, Jared Bowen and Mohamed Kudus. So, West Ham win this game 3-1. It was a nothing game with both teams having nothing to play for. But yeah, this was Ipswich Town's last game in the Premier League this season, as they are of course going straight back down in 19th spot. Now, I'm going to be a little bit less harsh on them than Leicester. I think a lot of us expected Ipswich to go down. I think it was a real shock that Ipswich even got into the Premier League in the first place. They got back-to-back promotions. A lot of the players in the squad actually have already were from League One. A lot of them were in League One with Ipswich, so most of us knew that Ipswich were going to struggle this season. They showed some fight, I think, in the second half of the season, though they were really poor. And in the end, I think they just lacked a lot of quality in their squad to compete at this level. But, they haven't been in the Premier League for a long time. I'm sure their fans really enjoyed it. And let's see. Hopefully they, for their sake, don't suffer a similar fate to Luton. But yeah, maybe in the Championship. I think they've got some decent players for Championship level. Hopefully in the Championship they can stabilise and maybe make a push back to the Premier League next season. But this year, very underwhelming, but it's not been a total disaster for Ipswich because, as I said, I think expectations were a little bit low at the start of the season anyways. And they'll probably keep hold of Kieran McKenna, so I think they've got some stability in their manager, unlike a team like Leicester. So yeah, not a great season for Ipswich, but it's not the end of the world because I think a lot of us expected them to struggle. West Ham, meanwhile, not a lot of us actually expected them to be as bad as they have been this season. West Ham have really disappointed, maybe the disappointment of the season. I know they eventually finished in 14th spot, but for most of the season actually they were down in like 16th, 17th. Yeah, disastrous season. I think some of us might actually forget that coming into the season, a lot of people were hyping up West Ham because they had such a good transfer window, right? They signed players like Guido Rodriguez, who was linked to Barcelona. They signed players like Carlos Soler of PSG, Wan-Bissaka, Fulkrug, who was great for Germany at the Euros, Todibo, who was linked with Man United and Spurs, spent £50 million on Kilman. But most of those signings haven't really worked, bar Wan-Bissaka, who's actually been really good, and Lopetegui didn't work. Potter's come in, and I mean, he's been okay, but yes, the jury's still out on him. It's been a really underwhelming season for West Ham, and they'll be hoping that they can kick on next season and just put this one past them, because really the only shining light of this season has been Jared Bowen and kind of Wan-Bissaka. Everyone else has just been awful for West Ham. Okay, next up we have Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 1, a goal from Mo Salah, Ismaila Sarr, and a red card for Ryan Gravenberch. So, we had the champions finally officially lift the Premier League title, Liverpool, in this game. We had the Premier League winners as the FA Cup winners. It was a pretty funny moment because Palace gave Liverpool a guard of honour and then Liverpool gave Palace a guard of honour, which was pretty funny. It was a nice touch, to be fair, from Liverpool, because Palace definitely deserved that for their FA Cup. But in the end, the actual game ended 1-1. The red card for Gravenberch was also totally justified, but Mo Salah managed to get a goal which I believe equals a record for most goal contributions in a Premier League season. Actually, to be fair, we'll have a look at all the stats at the end of the video, but if we talk about Liverpool, I've already spoken quite a bit about their title once they were confirmed champions, so I'll be a bit more brief, but of course there's not much to say here except what an amazing amazing season it's been for Liverpool. To win the Premier League this season, I don't think too many people expected it. I think some people even thought they would completely fall off a cliff. But under Slot, they've been fantastic this season. Ran away with the league. Their form since being champions has been horrific, but of course you can excuse that because they've allowed themselves to be on the beach for the last 4 games of the season because of how incredible they were. For the first part of the season, they were fantastic. A lot of their players have been brilliant, and great achievement, great season for them. And let's see what happens next season if they can retain their trophy, because it looks like they've already been making moves in the transfer window to retain their title. As for Crystal Palace, sensational season. I mean, in the league it was alright. 12th again, finishing in 53 points. 12th again, but to quote Dean Henderson, who gives a F, we won the FA Cup. Obviously Palace in the league, alright. They started actually the season off really poorly under Glasner. I'm not really sure what happened, but the second half of the campaign, Palace have been sensational, both in the league and of course in the cup. They ended the league in some terrific form, and of course they got their first ever piece of silverware, so it's a season for the history books. They're going to be playing in Europe next season, and who knows, under Oliver Glasner, he already has a Europa League belt, medal to his belt for Frankfurt. Maybe Palace could pull some trees in Europe, but historic season for Palace. Right, next up, Manchester United 2, Aston Villa 0, goals from Amad Diallo, Christian Eriksen, and a red card for Emi Martinez. So this game did have quite a bit of riding on it for Aston Villa. They needed to try and win this game in order to have a chance of qualifying for the Champions League, but they kind of imploded really in controversial fashion. The first half, actually, United kind of dominated Villa. I mean, not too much happened, but Villa really weren't great in the first half. Look at this, right? They only had 1 shot. But then the decisive moment came with the ball back pass from Matty Cash, and then the red card from Emi Martinez, and really that cost Villa the game, or well, cost Liverpool some of the game. Matty Cash and Emi Martinez there. Of course, with 10 men, it was going to be difficult to try and win the game. But they did, of course, get that goal from Morgan Rogers, but it was ruled out for a foul on the keeper, which was just not a foul, but a refereeing error. He blew the whistle before the ball went in the back of the net, and it's so stupid because it's like, mate, come on, it's game week 38. Surely at this point, you know the rule that if you think there's a foul, if you think there's an offside, you wait to blow the whistle until the ball's in the back of the net, and then you disallow the goal. So I can see why Villa fans will be completely aggrieved about that. But still, I think the red card was really the decisive moment. And of course that didn't help, and in the end, Amad scored. Eriksen got a nice gift to get a penalty on his last Man United appearance, but Man United get the win. And we talk about Villa, look, they'll be very annoyed about the way that they didn't get Champions League football, because they kind of feel robbed, and maybe rightfully so. But if we'd just taken those emotions out of it, actually it's been a really good season for Villa. I think in hindsight it's been pretty good. I know they didn't get Champions League football, but they finished in the top 6, very close, just on goal difference. Didn't get Champions League football. They finished in the top 6. They made an FA Cup semi-final. They made the quarter-finals of the Champions League, potentially being knocked out by the eventual winners in PSG. I think overall that's solid season for Villa. As I said, they'll be very annoyed and disappointed if they didn't get Champions League football. But actually, maybe playing in the Europa League next season could be the best thing for them, because we all know Unai Emery's record in the Europa League. He is addicted to winning that competition. So Villa will probably have a good chance of potentially getting some silverware next season. I know they're going to be angry and disappointed about this loss against United, but actually in hindsight and overall, I think when they cool down they'll say we had a pretty decent season. As for United, well, I mean, look, it was good that they managed to get a victory here after the Europa League loss, but what more is there to say about United, really? They finished in 15th spot, their worst ever finish in a Premier League season. They did actually get 40 points at least, so there's something, but absolute disaster. They didn't win the Europa League. Just abysmal. I mean, really, the only saving grace of the season is Amad Diallo and Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, absolutely abysmal from United. Ruben Amorim, serious questions over him for sure. He's probably going to stay in charge next season, but he's got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of work to do in the summer, and he needs to get off to a good start next season, because if he doesn't, he might be gone simply because of how bad they've been under him. But what an abysmal season has been for United. Next up, Newcastle United 0, Everton 1, a goal from Charlie Alcaraz. So Newcastle were shocked here. Actually, they lost at home to Everton in this game. They needed a win to secure Champions League football, but they were let off the hook because of that Villa result. Because Villa lost, it meant Newcastle secured top 5, finishing in 5th spot, ahead of Villa just on goal difference. So a bit lucky in the end there. Newcastle, they almost bottled it, but they got the job done, and actually that now means this is honestly maybe the dream season for a Newcastle fan. At the start of the season, if you would have told a Newcastle fan that you'll be qualifying for the Champions League and you'll end your trophy drought, they would have absolutely bit your hand off for that. And that is exactly what Newcastle did. They won the League Cup, they won the Carabao Cup, ending their trophy drought, and they have made a return to the Champions League, qualifying for the competition again. I think that was pretty much all you could ask for from Newcastle this season. A really good job from Eddie Howe. Some of the players have been fantastic this year. Obviously Alexander Isak, but players like Bruno, Denali, Linden, Murphy. Yeah, there have been some really good performances, and it's a really successful season for Newcastle overall. And let's see what they can do next year. Can they potentially kick on from this? Remember last time they were in the Champions League, it was a bit of a hindrance actually to them. Maybe this time they can truly kick on. As for Everton, a pretty solid season, a season maybe of two tales. The first half of the season under Sean Dyche was really poor, and they looked in real danger of potentially being dragged into a relegation battle. But under David Moyes, they have been sensational and secured a mid-table 13th place finish. Yeah, they've been terrific under David Moyes. He has done really well for them. I will say it's sort of going to be interesting. I think they're entering a bit of a new era now, because Moyes has done really well to sort of extract all he could out of his squad, but a lot of these players will be departing, like Decore, and I think like Idrissa Gueye, maybe Michael Keane, and a bunch of others, Ashley Young. Their contracts are all expiring. They're entering a new stadium as well next season, so a lot of change will happen at Everton next season, but it's been a really good end to the season under David Moyes. Alright, next up, Nottingham Forest 0, Chelsea 1, a goal from Levi Colwill. So, This was really the pick of a bunch in terms of the games. This was the one that had the most importance, the most riding on it. It was essentially a cup final for Champions League football. Whoever won this game would get into the Champions League. It was that simple. And in the end, Chelsea managed to do it and secure a fourth place finish with 69 points. And I will say I was very pleased about our performance in this game. I'm not gonna lie, I was quite nervous. I thought we would actually mess this up because really in these big moments, these decisive games, this Chelsea squad has shown that they sort of crumble, but this was actually a performance I was proud of. It almost felt like vintage Chelsea. It was a mature performance. It felt like, for the first time in a while, a performance from like men, not kids. Because we saw out the game really well. Maresca did some really good changes to shut up shop, but defensively we were solid, and yeah, we managed to get over the line. And if I talk about Chelsea's season as a whole, I think the objective was Champions League football, the objective was top four, and we did it. It was in the most convincing fashion. It definitely was not, but we did it. And we achieved our objective. We are, of course, in the Conference League final too, so hopefully we win that. We'll get a trophy, I guess. Even if it's not the biggest trophy in the world, we'll get a trophy, top four. I'll take that. I will take that. That's what my really expectation was for this season. I think we achieved that, so yeah. I still have questions maybe over, is Maresca the guy to take us to the top? Is this team ready to compete? There's still holes, there's still areas we need to address, but we needed Champions League football. We got it, so I'll take it for sure. As for Nottingham Forest, look, they completely collapsed at the end of the season and they'll be bitterly disappointed given the position they were in, that they didn't get Champions League football, in the end finishing in 7th spots. But kind of like Villa, it will hurt now, but I think give it a week and Forest fans will realise that it's been an incredible season and it's been a really successful season. To finish in 7th spot and qualify for European football, I think a lot of people actually had Forest competing to stay up in the division. So to qualify for European football is a fantastic achievement. Some of the players have been scintillating this season. Players like Chris Wood, Elanga, Gibbs White, Milenkovic, Aina, Sells, all of them have been great. Very disappointing that they did not get Champions League football, as I said, but getting European football is still impressive. They will be going into the Conference League, and you know what, it could be a blessing in disguise, because we saw what West Ham did in that competition. Forest may have a genuine chance for potentially winning the Conference League next season, so we'll see what happens there. Alright, next up we have Southampton 1, Arsenal 2, goals from Ross Stewart, Kieran Tierney and Martin Odegaard. So, two teams with nothing to play for, but the game was a little bit entertaining actually. Kieran Tierney got a nice moment, a goal on his final Arsenal appearance. Odegaard's got a banger. Ross Stewart managed to score a goal, another goal from a corner conceded by Arsenal. That sadly meant Ray's golden glove as well was, well, I mean he still gets it shared, but he wasn't a single holder of it anymore. But yeah, look, Southampton, will keep it very brief because what more is there to say except an absolutely atrocious season. Rock bottom with 12 points, just 2 wins all season. That is absolutely disgraceful. One of the worst Premier League teams in history. I mean, the only thing I can say about them positive is at least they didn't break their derby record, so yeah, I think actually they've appointed Will Silva as their next manager, which is pretty interesting. I think he's a good manager, so we'll see what they do in the Championship. Now Arsenal, pretty disappointing season. This was really meant to be the year that they go ahead and get over the line, where they go ahead and win the title. With Manchester City falling away. This was Arsenal's moment after challenging at the top for so long, and yet again they finish in second place. And actually this season was a reverse. They took a regression this year and were quite a way off the title race, which is very disappointing. Now, we did get to a Champions League semi-final, which is good progression in terms of European football, and there are of course factors that affect their season. They had a lot of injuries, we can't discredit that, but in general it's not been a great season for Arsenal, because this was meant to be the year that they challenge at the top and they didn't do so. Next season's going to be crucial. Off the back of this, they're going to need to get a trophy under their belt. Arteta's going to need to get a trophy, but we'll see what happens, because yeah, this season was pretty disappointing for Arsenal, who are really meant to kick on. Right, Tottenham 1, Brighton 4, goals from Dominic Solanke, a brace from Jack Ingerwood, Matt O'Reilly and Diego Gomez. So, a reality check for Tottenham players and fans and stuff. After the high of Europa League win, I think this game just reminded everyone that this team is shocking, and this is a rubbish Tottenham side. You get absolutely battered at home by Brighton. Yeah, it's honestly a miracle how they won the Europa League. A disastrous season in terms of the Premier League for Spurs, not even getting 40 points. They finished 17th in the Premier League with 38 points, 22 losses. They got double the amount of losses they do wins. Absolutely abysmal. Yet somehow they have found themselves in the Champions League next season, and somehow they have ended their trophy drought. I don't know how they did it, and weirdly, despite being so bad in the Premier League, I think you kind of have to say this season was a success. Like, if you told a Spurs fan at the start of the season they'll qualify for the Champions League and they'll win a trophy, they would have absolutely bit your hand off for that. Now, that me saying it's a successful season does not excuse what's happened in the Premier League and how bad they've been. But look, they did win a trophy. They are in the Champions League next season. However, there are a lot of issues at Spurs, and that Europa League win should not mask it. And actually, this was probably a good result for them, because it just showed that it reminded them that yeah, you won the Europa League, but you are still a bad team and need a lot of work done. As for Brighton, very impressive win by the way, great comeback. Also shout out Diego Gomez, who scored an absolute golazo. I mean, that was a banger. But Brighton, I would say it was a pretty good season for them. Unfortunately for them, they finished in 8th spot, but because Palace won the FA Cup, they did not get a European spot. Very unfortunate, and kind of funny that their so-called rivals actually pit them to the European spot and meant they didn't get it. But overall, I think they had some really bad lows, they had some really good highs this season, a little bit inconsistent. They ended the season on some sensational form, finished in 8th spot. I think this is all you could ask for from Fabian Hurstler in his first season in charge. Yeah, a really good, solid campaign for Brighton. Alright, and finally, Wolves 1, Brentford 1, goal from Munetzi and Brian Mbuemo. So, yeah, two teams didn't really have much to play for. I mean, Brentford had a slim chance of getting the Conference League, but it ended a draw. There was also another golazo here with Munetzi goal. Talking about Wolves' season as a whole, it was really a season of two halves. First half of the season under Gary O'Neill, they were horrific, but under Vita Pereira, they were terrific. They eventually finished in 16th spot. Fell apart towards the end of the season, but they were sort of on the beach. And yeah, under Gary see what happens next year with a full year under Vita Pereira, but very good second half of the season for them. Brentford, sensational season. Finishing 10th spot. A top half finish. I think this is their highest ever finish. It's their record points tally in a Premier League season. They had an outside chance of getting 8th spot and potential Conference League spot, which would have been amazing. They didn't get it in the end, but that doesn't take away from what's been a sensational season for them. Yeah, they've been fantastic. Under Thomas Frank, Wissa and Mbuemo have just been absolutely sensational. Thomas Frank yet again working wonders at Brentford. Right, so there we go. That is a final day review, and that is your final Premier League table. So Liverpool are your champions. Arsenal, Manchester City, Chelsea and Newcastle will be playing Champions League football, and also Spurs. Aston Villa and Crystal Palace will be playing Europa League football, and Nottingham Forest will be playing Conference League football, while Southampton, Ipswich and Leicester have been relegated. If we have a look at the stats, the Premier League top goal scorer, Golden Boot winner, Mo Salah with 29 Premier League goals, and he got 18 assists as well, so he is the top goal scorer, top assister, and he did win, of course, the Player of the Season award. Never in doubt. I believe he has tied the record for the most goal contributions in a Premier League season with 47, which is absolutely insane. Second to him was Alexander Isak, third was Erling Haaland. Jacob Murphy and Anthony Elanga were second in the assist charts. If we have a look at the Golden Glove, the winners were shared between David Raya and Matt Sells, who both got 13. So, yeah, there we go. That's the Premier League season done. I'm not going to talk about the European stuff because I'm going to do a separate video where I wrap up all of the European leagues. I'll do that at a later date, so stay tuned for that. We've got the Champions League final coming up, so we'll do a video talking about that, of course. I'm going to do some videos still talking about this Premier League season. We've got plenty of stuff about transfers, etc. planned in the summer, so a lot still to discuss. But thank you very much, as I said at the start, for your support during the Premier League season. And if you guys have enjoyed, please do leave a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in another